Cinderella had the perfect outfit for the prince's ball, but no matter how much magic was imbued into those slippers, one of them just wouldn't stay on. And did you notice how they were the only accessory of her magical outfit that didn't disappear or transform when the clock struck midnight? For a while, that was honestly the one thing that bothered me about Cinderella. It always seemed like there was a deeper meaning behind it. After combing through everything that I know about Cinderella and all of the stories that the fairy godmother was involved in, it's starting to look like there was actually a specific reason that the glass slippers never disappeared. Hold on to your wands because this one might shock you. The fairy godmother was clearly a magical being, but there was something about her that made it seem like she was more powerful than she was letting on, and that was indirectly proven throughout the animated Cinderella trilogy. Specifically in Cinderella 3: A Twist in Time, when Lady Tremaine got her hands on the fairy godmother's wand, fans got to see a perfect example of just how powerful her magic really was. After Anastasia witnessed fairy godmother's magic for herself, she happened to get a hold of her magic wand, and just as Lady Tremaine raised her to do, Anastasia brought this knowledge of magic and the all-powerful wand straight back to her mother. Lady Tremaine then used the wand and, with no prior experience in magic, managed to not only go back in time, but to straight up alter the timeline so that Cinderella never got her original happy ending. Cinderella's wicked stepmother was also able to use the godmother's magic wand to alter the memories of the prince and cause him to believe Anastasia was Cinderella. And again, Lady Tremaine had no prior experience using magical items or casting spells, at least as far as Disney has shown us, but still she was able to cast these ultra-powerful charms that could alter the fabric of reality around her. With that in mind, try to imagine what the fairy godmother would be capable of when she used the full extent of her magic. On top of that, in other Disney-related stories that involve the fairy godmother, such as Once Upon a Time, the godmother's magic is often considered to be some of the most powerful magic in existence. In the show, Rumpelstiltskin made it a point to get his hands on the wand so that he could imbue it with fairy dust in order to go forward with his ultimate plan. So there's no denying that she would have been very powerful by the time she met Cinderella and helped her out of her horrible situation. Interestingly enough, though, it seems like the fairy godmother made a very conscious decision to set a time limit for the magic that she used on Cinderella. Now, this is just a theory, but based on how powerful she was, Cinderella's fairy godmother most likely didn't have to put a time limit on the magic that she used to transform Cinderella's clothes and animal friends. Instead, she chose to do so for a specific reason. According to a popular fan theory, it was all a part of the godmother's bigger plan to help Cinderella achieve a true happily ever after. She not only needed to give Cinderella a reason to run out of the ball by midnight, but also needed to give the prince a reason to chase after her, which is where the infamous glass slipper comes into play. But what is it that made the glass slippers so special that they were exempt from the midnight reversion rule? Unlike the rest of Cinderella's enchanted outfit, carriage, and animal helpers, the slippers were the only item that wasn't made out of something that already existed. This means that the slippers likely didn't have to follow the same rules or restrictions that the godmother set for the rest of her magical outfit and carriage. If you remember in the movie, Cinderella's beautiful shimmering ball gown looked like it was a transformation of the clothes that she was already wearing, much like how the fairy godmother transformed Gus Gus, Jack, and the other mice into the white horses, or the large pumpkin into an even larger, elegant carriage. She even transformed Major, the old stable horse, and Cinderella's bloodhounds into humans that acted as the coachman and footman to accompany her to the ball. The only items that weren't just a transformed version of something else were the chic glass slippers that Cinderella had. They appeared to be conjured out of thin air, making them far more unique than the rest of her clothes. This is even more apparent when you take a look at the 2015 live-action version of Cinderella. In the film, her fairy godmother made a point to summon the glass slippers completely separate from the rest of her outfit. She cast the spell last and on its own, further implying that she had bigger plans for the slippers than what Cinderella was told. The same version of the fairy godmother also used particular wording when she explained the midnight rule to Cinderella. She said, "At the last stroke of midnight, the spell will be broken and all will return to what it was before." But when you think about it, the glass slippers wouldn't have had anything to revert back to when midnight came around, which is why they never ended up disappearing, and the fairy godmother most likely knew that was the case. Now, taking into account the fact that fairy godmother was capable of very powerful magic along with the unique quality of the slippers, it's not hard to wonder, why would a magical slipper that was created specifically for Cinderella suddenly fall off her foot? For starters, the fairy godmother may have been more cunning than anyone realized and used the slipper as bait, which required it to change sizes. There is a theory that suggests that Cinderella's fairy godmother knew the whole time that the slippers would lead her to a life of happiness, meaning that she would have planned everything that happened on the night of the ball from top to bottom. You can tell that the glass slippers were clearly magic based on how they sparkled, just like the fairy godmother did, which is why they were the exact size for Cinderella's petite feet. They fit like a glove, and for the most part, they never came off. The only exception to that was when she was running away from the prince because the clock hit midnight and she knew everything was about to turn back to normal. But when you think about it, it's weird that something that was made out of glass would suddenly not fit Cinderella's foot anymore, even though they had been perfect the entire night. Glass doesn't simply change size whenever it wants to. That is, unless they're made out of magic glass, which we know that these slippers were. In other words, there's a chance that the fairy godmother planned for Cinderella to lose a single shoe on the night of the ball and made it so that the slipper would magically change sizes just for a brief second when midnight rolled around. But why was the slipper falling off of Cinderella's foot so important, or even necessary? Maybe because the fairy godmother knew that this was exactly how you entice a person like the prince. And that's not saying that he's got some sort of weird thing for feet or anything like that. What I mean is that the fairy godmother knew that the prince would need something to chase after in order for him to find Cinderella and maintain his interest in her, or anyone for that matter, after the ball was over. In the original animated Cinderella, when the prince was first shown at the ball, he was clearly bored. They showed him yawning as he looked around the crowd and spoke with all of the women who were eager to make his acquaintance. However, one person stood out among the rest, and that of course was Cinderella. It was then that the prince started to enjoy himself and we got to see him dancing with Cinderella. But judging by the prince's attitude at the beginning of the ball, he ultimately wasn't looking forward to it or looking for a bride, meaning that if the night had just ended with the two saying goodbye, he may never have pursued Cinderella beyond the ballroom. This is where the fairy godmother comes in. As the theory suggests, she used her cleverness and magic to ensure that the one slipper got left behind for the prince to find. Perhaps she knew that him finding the slipper would ignite a spark within him that made him feel like he was destined to be with the shoe's owner. The slipper would not only act as a reminder of the only person who made his evening enjoyable, but also the perfect way to find her again. Now, the idea of chasing after a woman that he wished to woo was something that the prince most likely wasn't used to, considering every woman at the ball wanted to become his princess. So when Cinderella ran out on him and left behind a single glass slipper to be reunited with her, it was like kismet for the prince. Plus, if the slippers can really change their size like this theory suggests, then there's even the possibility that it was changing in size every time the prince had a new suitor try it on. It could have changed its size every time to make sure that only Cinderella's feet could properly fit inside, ensuring that the prince found the right owner and Cinderella got her happily ever after. Now, if this is true, then that makes Cinderella's fairy godmother both very powerful and very cunning. But thankfully, she appears to be one of the few Disney magic users that actually had a good heart and wanted to make the world a better place for those who deserved a little extra help. In this case, it was Cinderella and the prince. All she needed was a magical glass slipper and a little bit of time. What do you think about this theory, though? Did the fairy godmother use the time limit and the glass slipper specifically to ensure that Cinderella and the prince got together? Or did things just happen to work out the way that she had hoped and the slipper falling off was just an accident? Be sure to let me know what you think in the comments below.